Welcome back to Honda Garage, Idaho. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the fog lights on a second generation Honda Fit, how to remove and replace them, and perhaps more importantly, what to replace them with depending on whether you're going for something cheap, something with a different look, or something high performance. So we're going to dive in. Let's get started. Now in today's video, we're going to be doing the work on my 2009 and 2011 Honda Fits respectively. Both of those are the pre-facelift version, which means they have the fog lights that look like this. The 2012 to 14 have a different style fog light, but it's removed from the bumper in the same way. So I'm not going to worry too much about showing that process here. As I'm sure many of you Fit owners are very familiar with, these lenses break super easily from rocks getting kicked up. They shatter all the time. So as we go throughout this video, whatever you decide to replace your fog lights with, keep in mind that getting a protective film like Laminex or something else to help absorb and distribute that impact and protect the lens is a great idea before reinstalling your new ones. Another important note, this video is only going to cover sport models that have the fog lights from the factory. The 2009 to 2014 Honda Fit base models have a bumper without factory fog lights, but it's important to note there actually is a dealer installed option, and this uses a different fog light housing that we'll talk about later in the video. But the majority of what I'm going to cover today is just for the sport that has factory fog lights built into the bumper. So we're going to start off with looking at the very quick and very easy way to get these out of the Honda Fit bumper. The only thing we're going to need is a Phillips head screwdriver right up in the corner of the fog light bracket closest to the central grille. You can see in the shadows right there is a Phillips head screw, and we're just going to remove that to loosen the whole assembly from the bumper. With that screw removed, we can pull from this corner of the fog light assembly to slowly rotate and pull outward the fog light assembly. On the pre-facelift at least, there's two tabs over here that kind of lock into this notch in the bumper. There's also a small alignment pin right here on the bottom side, and that fits into this square cutout in the bumper plastic. With the fog light loose, we can disconnect the H11 bulb that goes here by pushing down on this tab in the center of the socket and pulling it away from the bulb. Now if, unlike these, your fog lights are in fine condition and you just have a burned out bulb, these can be removed by twisting counterclockwise and pulling backward out of the fog light assembly and replaced with an H11 bulb of your choosing. The only difference you may find on the facelift models is that you probably have a plastic cap covering up the screw on the inside. That can just be pried off with a small flathead screwdriver or a curved pair of tweezers, and then the removal process is exactly the same. It really is that easy and that fast to get these out of the bumper, so let's go into the shop to talk about separating this assembly and what we're going to replace these with. Okay, so now that we've got the fog lights pulled off of the car, we're going to take a look at removing the fog lamp housing and its sub-bracket from the front bezel itself. There's going to be 3 Phillips head screws, one here, and one here on either side that we're going to remove. With those 3 screws removed, they'll just separate like this. So here's our front bezel that we'll save for reinstallation. And now we've got the fog light assembly itself. So that's composed of this housing where the bulb installs on the front lens, as well as this small bracket around it, which provides the adjustment. So there's a Phillips head screw right here that can be turned from underneath the car. And this little spring-loaded mechanism in this bracket here is actually what provides the vertical aim adjustment for the fog lights. So you can tighten or loosen the screw to angle the fog light housing in this bracket and then reinstall it on the vehicle. So we'll explore that later with the reinstallation, but for now, let's actually take some time to explore the replacement options because there's quite a few different ways you can go when you're swapping these out. So to properly compare our options, let's take just the housing out of this final adjustment bracket here. First, we're going to remove the Phillips head on this side. On the other side, there's just a small plastic peg that fits into this hole here, but there's no screw. So we'll just take out the one on this side. These are notorious for rusting in and getting super difficult to remove. If you absolutely have to, you can just drill this off and replace it with a different screw. It's just a standard M4 thread, so you can get any screw that fits that thread and it should work just fine. The factory ones have a little shoulder here to center them in the fog light bracket, but any regular one should work if you have to replace the lamp housing and this screw gets broken or damaged while removing it. We're also going to take off the adjustment bracket on the back here. Again, a Phillips head screw. And that's just another M4 that can be easily replaced if needed. Now we can pop this bracket off the back, push this side of the fog lamp forward out of the bracket and then move it sideways to dislodge this pin from the hole here and take the lamp out the front of the bracket. Now, as I alluded to previously, there is a difference between the pre-facelift or 2009 to 2011 fog light housings and the facelift or 2012 to 2014 housings. They are a different shape and they share a different mounting pattern on the back. So here's my 2011 brackets. You can see there's two holes down here for that adjustment bracket, and they're kind of below and centered around where the fog light bulb is installed. Here is an example of what the 2012 to 2014 look like. I don't have my stock ones on hand, but the center of the fog light bulb will be here, and there'll be one way down here and one way out to the side and higher up. So if you're looking at the back of the fog light, that's the easiest way to tell the difference between the two. So you do want to make sure you get the correct one for your vehicle. Not only is the mounting points different, but the arms are a little bit different width, and the fog light lenses are larger on the 12 to 14, so they will not quite fit on an older one without some heavy modification. But now let's get into what you actually might replace these with, and to start we'll look at the cheapest or most budget-friendly option, which is just to go for an OEM style replacement. These are super easy to come across online, and you can get clear versions or yellow versions, which when paired with a halogen or a yellow LED bulb give a really cool JDM look. And those are going to be the cheapest option to just plug and play back into your vehicle. No fuss, just a nice upgraded look and some clean functional lenses. You can of course get these super cheap on eBay, and the key is to look out for other vehicles that are similar to find the cheapest models if that's really what you're going for. Obviously, you lose a lot of quality in the optics when you go for the cheapest stuff. Now, one other important note is that even if you see the two mounting holes right here centered below the fog light bulb, that does not mean that it'll work on the Fit. There's older Honda vehicles that come with a similar style of fog light, but it's much shallower, and it's even smaller than the Fit lights. As far as I know, only the 2007 to 8 first generation USDM Fit and the 2009 to 2011 Fit share this extended style light with the two centered mounting holes. If you know of others, let me know so I can update the compatibility. But that's what you're going to want to look for on the pre-facelift lights. If you come across something for an older Accord or a Civic that looks similar, I don't think they will work. They're way too small. And by the way, this super shallow, older style oval fog light is the type that you'll find on the non-sport fit models that I mentioned at the start of the video. If you're looking for replacement parts for these, they're often referred to as dealer installed online. And it's a totally different housing and mounting bracket and front bezel. Everything's different. So it's not going to be compatible with anything I'm showing today. I might have something in the works to replace these with a performance fog light, but there's nothing available right now. Your next option, as I've already sort of showed, is only for the facelift models right now, and that's the Morimoto XB. These are a nice LED projector fog light, and this one I have here actually is a no-name kind of generic brand from eBay that I got for quite a bit cheaper. I don't recommend these to a lot of people because for the price they're not really a huge performance upgrade, but they do look nice with the gloss black housing and the projector lenses. So for a nice OEM plus look and still getting a crisp white cutoff, these are a good choice if you're going that route. Keep in mind though, they are only available for the facelift model. If you want these for an 09 to 11, you'll have to hack up your brackets and make some room. Now, if it's real performance that you're going for, our next option is Diode Dynamics. Now, we have these SSC2 replacement brackets that I've designed, and they are available for the facelift or the pre-facelift version. I have two different sizes, and they support only the new C2 2.0 with the side mounting holes like this. So this bracket is what I'm going to be using on my daily driver Fit, and these are the Max Fogs in yellow. You can get Diode Dynamics with street legal output, and they also come in white or amber output, which is awesome. And you can get plug-and-play adapters for the H11 bulb, shown here. Now, Diode Dynamics isn't a sponsor. I just love their cost-to-performance ratio. Their lights do really, really well, especially for street-legal applications. So this is what we're going to be using on my first Fit. These brackets come with a threaded insert on the sides for that stock M4, as well as a post on the back to attach the adjustment bracket, and then just a blank post here to fit in that hole on the other side. I've mounted my SSC2 pod in this bracket with just some spare hardware I had laying around. These were some M5 bolts. The SSC2 takes M5 all around for mounting. So reinstalling in our fog light bracket, we'll make sure, of course, that the adjustment screw is pointed downward, and then we can go ahead and insert our fog light. Whichever style you're getting, we're going to go with the little mounting stub here first on this side, and then we can slide this side of the bracket back in to line up with the hole here. And of course, we can also line up our adjustment bracket here on the back. And then we can reinstall our 2 screws. Perfect, and with that done, we can now reinstall them in our factory style bracket right here. And there we go, so we can see that SSC2 just fits perfectly in the stock oval cutout. We still have a little bit of a gap all around, and that will give us room to adjust the fog light without hitting anything. So we're going to install this SSC2 version on my 2009 Fit, and we can see I've already got an adapter plugged in here to go from the Diode Dynamics specific off-road plug to the factory H11. I made my own here, and I left the backlight wire off just for simplicity. I don't plan to use it on this car. If you do have a Diode Dynamics setup and you do want to use the backlight feature, we'll take a look at where to splice that in just a moment. But for now, we're going to plug in the fog light and then get it reinstalled, which is super easy. Now to reinstall this, it's going to be another kind of swinging or rotating motion. We're going to start with getting this back corner lined up here, and then we'll make sure that as we press this in, it fits all the way into the bumper, and that little other alignment pin fits into its spot. If you try to just push this straight in, sometimes it won't line up quite right, but there we go. You'll feel it kind of fit snugly into place and see everything match the body lines. You'll know it's in the right spot. Then all we have to do is reinstall that Phillips screw in the corner. Repeat for the other side and we're already done. Okay, so now the installation is complete. They look awesome, super clean, low profile look. And I'm going to go over a little bit later in the video how to adjust the aim on these and get them pointed where you want them to go. But for right now, we have not only one, but 2 more options for the pre-facelift Fit to look at. And they are products that I've designed that are a full replacement bezel. So not just the oval fog light housing, but the entire black plastic piece here is going to get replaced. So let's go check those out. The first of the 2 options, and the one that I'm actually more excited about, I think, is this particular style here that I've designed. And I think this is really going to blow the aftermarket wide open for the pre-facelift Fits, because this uses the fog light assembly in here from a Ford F-150 or 250. So they're super, super common. There's tons of aftermarket options. They're easy to get a hold of, and they still fit well with the Fit styling. I think we'll look at them on the vehicle in a little bit. But these are from the 2015 to, I think, 2018-ish era of the F-150 and 250. And I've got here a set of used OEM LED fog lamps. So I'm going to show you the installation with those on this bracket, but pretty much any aftermarket model that works with those vehicles should work with this bracket. Here's the base bracket without a fog light installed. So we have essentially 2 pivot points, one here and one here, that the fog light will sit in and rotate. And then this arm here for our adjustment screw and spring, just like the factory style fog lights. This is in a bit of a different position compared to where the Fit adjuster is, so we'll have to go over that later and see if there's another way to reach it from underneath the car, because it's not in the same spot where that hole in the underliner plastic is. The fog light assembly itself is pretty straightforward. We have our mounting arm back here, and this has a little plastic insert for that adjustment screw to go through. The connector here for the positive and negative is actually not an H11, it's a different style. So if you're installing these and you just pick up factory Ford ones, you will need adapters like this that go between the 9006 style plug and the H11 plug on the Fit, so that you can plug this into the Fit's bulb connector and then plug this into the back of the fog lights. Do keep in mind that there's a few different types of adapters out here. This one that I have just to show today has a small little round bump in the center, but the Ford fog light has these 2 little tabs sticking out that are actually wider apart than my adapter will allow. So this particular one is not quite going to work unless I cut away a little bit of the plastic. There are ones available that have a wider rectangular cutout at the bottom to accommodate stuff like that. So if you're looking for your own adapters, keep that in mind. Like I said, this is a part I designed, so this one and the next one that we're going to look at will be available on the website either to download and customize for yourself, or you'll be able to purchase these full parts for me as well if you just want to do a quick installation. And in that case, they will include the wiring adapters you need, a pair of those, and the adjustment hardware here. Each fog light uses 1 spring and 1 screw, so there'll be brand new hardware included with those, as well as a new plastic grommet here in case the fog lights you pick up don't come with them. So this mounting tab on the brackets is designed to be a little bit flexible, and that's going to be where we start installing this fog lamp assembly. I will say that this particular plastic that I usually get these made out of can be kind of brittle when it gets colder, so do just keep that in mind if you're putting these together in the winter. try to assemble them inside, or just give them like a few second blast with even a hairdryer or something, just to make sure that plastic is flexible and it's not just going to crack and break. To tell which way the fog light goes right side up, just look for any text that's on the lens and make sure that that's oriented upright. And then we're going to start by kind of angling this in here to get this pivot point mounted in that flexible arm. And then we can flex that arm outward a little bit this way as we push the fog light in and get that other mounting leg seated in its position. And now we can see that the fog light is mounted there and it's just ready for the adjustment hardware. So all we need to do now is take our adjustment spring and slide it in this gap here. And then we're going to take our screw, which just needs a Phillips head to install, and thread it all the way up until it meets that plastic grommet. So now we've got that fog light mounted in here securely, and just like with the factory style fit brackets, if you tighten or loosen the screw, that spring will help keep the fog light in place, but it'll change the tilt inside the bracket. So that's how we're going to aim adjust them. So that is the first full bezel replacement option that I wanted to announce, and I'm, again, super excited about it. You'll be able to use factory forward fog lights. You can use the Elite series from Diode Dynamics, like I've mentioned earlier. You can use the dual color output ones from Alpharex. You can use any number of wacky generic styles with daytime running lights that you can find along Amazon or eBay or other websites. And of course, if you're going for a more budget route, you can also just find cheap used OEM ones on Facebook Marketplace or something. So tons of customizability for the fits, and I'm really curious to see what people do with this. Before we go check out what it takes to install one of these full bezel designs on the car, let's look at the final option. Now that final option is, of course, these. I posted a bit about them on social media previously, and people seem to be really excited about it. It mounts directly to the bumper with the factory hardware, and it uses the Diode Dynamics SS3, which is available with much higher output, which is awesome. Plus, it comes with this cool honeycomb venting over on the side to match the upper grille, which was just a fun feature I added. So I'm going to be installing this on the red off-road project fit, and we'll be doing that a little bit later. So for installing the SS3 pods into the brackets, we're going to use this stainless hardware here. These use 1032 screws and nylon nuts. And by the way, on the website, if you're purchasing these brackets or the SSC2 brackets, they'll come with the hardware that you need to do this setup. But we're going to install these here. These nuts fit into slots on the back of the SS3 pods, as we can see right here, with the nylon on the inside. And then the screws and washers are going to be used through these mounting tabs right here. There's a little cutout for a washer on each side that we can just fit right in there. Lovely. Then our SS3 pod slides through the front of the fog light housing until we line it up with that hole. And then we can use an Allen key to install the 1032 screws. This one on the inside that's concealed, we're going to snug down pretty tight. We want it tight enough that this pod can be pivoted by pushing on the top or bottom, but there's a decent amount of resistance there. You want it to be pretty difficult. And the reason for that is when we go to aim these, we want to be able to adjust this from after it's installed on the car without access to the back while that screw remains tight. And then this screw on the other side that's externally accessible can be tightened down afterward to lock this into place. So we'll put the other washer in here, just carefully drop it down in place. And then our other screw can fit right inside this hole. And we'll just tighten that barely so that it stays gripped, but we can still adjust this as I showed before. And that's all there is to it. Now we can install back in the vehicle with the factory screw here in this corner, and it'll reattach with those mounting tabs on this side here. Now, for the reinstallation of either the F-150 or the SS3 style brackets, the parts I designed do not have that same little lip that fits into this groove here, so we're actually going to cut this plastic off the bumper. Any sharp box cutting knife or X-Acto knife should work, but we're going to trim this piece all the way up to about here, where it curves in, so right about the center of that radius. And then this top piece, we're just going to trim that completely off, flush with the rest of the cutout. Rather than cut the whole piece off in one go, I like to try and make several little scoring passes first with light pressure, and then one final cut. Makes it a lot easier. So there we go, just a nice flush cut, and now our bracket will fit in here no problem. Now before I install the full bracket with the SS3 mounted in there, I actually want to test fit it and kind of show you the attachment points for this bracket in the vehicle now. So on the one that I've designed, we have some tabs over here that will fit in that slot on the side to keep the corner in. We also obviously have our spot for the screw mount here. But one that you're not going to be able to see once the SS3 is installed is this little hook on the bottom that goes into this square hole down here, and that's why we didn't cut it off. So when we go to install the bracket, we're going to line up the corner and make sure that those mounting legs on the side kind of line up correctly with that to hold that corner in place. But before we slide it all the way in, we're actually going to make sure that we press this little hook back far enough to grab on that wall of the square too. So you have to kind of do it by feel once you're installing it, since you won't be able to see this here with the light, but if it takes a couple tries, just be careful with it. Once you get that bottom piece hooked in, there will be no play down there at all. It butts up right against the front of the plastic and then hooks it around the back. And once you've got those two done correctly, then we can tighten our screw in here to squeeze this up into the bumper. So I'm going to go ahead and get my light back in here and show you how it's mounted for real. Once again, we've got an adapter here to go from the Diode Dynamics SS3 to our stock style H11 plug. This does have a wire on it for the backlight function, so if the fog lights that you are buying have some sort of accent light or DRL function built in, you'll probably have a spare wire that's not terminated to use for that, and I will show you how to wire that up in just a moment. Before we install the fog light, we'll take that extra wire and just feed it up behind the bumper here to a spot where we can reach underneath the headlight and pull it out. Plenty of space back there to work with. So with this bracket fully installed, we can push on the front of the pod to aim it wherever we'd like. And I'll talk a little bit about aiming more at the end of the video, especially aiming the other two types with the spring-loaded mechanism and where and how to aim. But once you've got it dialed in where you need it to be, then we'll use our Allen key to finally come in and really tighten down this outer screw here. Snug it up really good so that our light does not move out of its fixed aim. And if you need to adjust it later, you can also re-loosen this, adjust it, and tighten it back up again. Now our F-150 style obviously installs just the same way as the SS3s. We'll get our wiring adapters connected in here first. For the H11 side, obviously we just want to make sure that the positive and negative match the wires on the fit side, so negative being black here. Squeeze that all the way in until we hear it click and that locking tab is in place. And then we'll take our 9005 plug end and connect that to the back of the fog lights. Now keep in mind that even if you get an aftermarket style and it comes with its own wiring, you will still need these adapters because since all those fog lights are made for the F-150s to begin with, they're all going to terminate with that 9005 plug, so you will need these adapters regardless. But once we connect that in, same story as the SS3s, make sure those hooks both line up where they're supposed to be. Once we've got our corner locked in and we can tell that this bottom one is also hooked in just by test pulling it a little bit, then we'll reinstall the screw on top. And just like that, we are all set. Alright, so let's briefly talk about connecting this backlight wire that we fed up through the bumper just a minute ago. And this will go for any of the styles of fog lights you connect if they come with an extra wire for some sort of accent light. We're going to need to tap that into somewhere on the factory harness and give it 12-volt power. The easiest or most common location that I'd suggest pulling from is the side marker bulb sockets up in the top corner of the headlight here. Those are pretty easy to unplug if you want more information on what the connectors are for the headlights. For multiple different functions, take a look at my video linked below on reinstalling headlights and what connectors and wiring go where. Now you'll probably find that regardless of which connector you decide to pull power out of, you'll need to peel away the electrical tape and some of the wiring tubing around the factory harness to get enough access there. And this is something that you can cut back and then replace later if you wish. So we'll go ahead and peel this off real quick. And that'll give us access to pull the wiring a ways out of the tubing here, so we've got plenty of space to attach something new on. Our upper side marker wiring features a gray wire for the positive on both sides and a black wire for the ground. So the gray wire is what I'm going to use to hook into my corner lights, and that way the backlight on my fog lights will be on whenever the parking light circuit is run. You could try to hook these to your factory daytime running lights in the high beam, but because of the way the car handles voltage for those running at a lower power, it's probably not going to be compatible with most aftermarket LEDs. So I'm going to use my corner side markers since I've disabled my factory daytime running light circuit anyway. Again, check out my video on the headlights if you want to see how to do that and get some more information. So if you're using my brackets with a SSC2 or SS3 kit from Diode Dynamics, they're going to come with a wire that's got a spade terminal on it and this type of T-tap, which you'll basically wrap around the wire you want to connect to and then use a set of pliers or something to crimp closed. Once you're done with that, the spade terminal end will just get inserted in the back side of the tap like that, all the way in. With many other brands, you'll find that they just come with a wire that is completely unterminated. It's just cut right off with nothing on it. And in that case, I actually like to use this style from Amazon. They're waterproof, they're super easy to assemble, they're very resilient to tugging and stuff just falling out or getting loose. So I'd highly recommend picking up a little pack of those if you're interested in doing a T-tap style. You could, of course, also do a little plug-and-play adapter with the connector style for the actual factory side marker socket. The part numbers for the male and female ends of the connector are on the screen. You could buy one of each of those for each side and make a little harness that plugs in between the stock harness and the bulb socket with a little extra wire coming out to splice onto your backlight to prevent doing any damage or modification to the stock wiring at all. So now we can see that our accent backlight switches on with the parking light circuit, and when we switch the low beams on, we have the capability of turning the full fog light feature on as well. These fog lights look super awesome. I can't wait to see how they perform in the dark. And by the way, if you want to see a video on setting up the independent fog light mod where they can be switched on and off separately from the low beams, do let me know. I'm interested in making a separate video on that. But now let's take a look at actually aiming the fog lights for the best on-road output. Now everybody has their personal preference on the aim height. I like mine shining down a little bit at a slight angle to get a good balance of distance and spread. And so it's kind of up to you how you feel you want them aimed. They should be used mostly in inclement weather. These are not supposed to be a low beam supplement that shines up and forward toward other drivers, rather something that's close and low illumination. So keep that in mind, but again, it is just going to be a personal preference thing. But anyway, with that said, let's check out the process to aim adjust these replacement fog lights, either a factory style oval light or the SSC2s. They will be adjusted the same way with that spring and screw on the back. So in order to adjust these, we need to look down underneath the bumper and locate this large hole in the splash guard here. Right in there is where we're going to find the Phillips head screw for adjusting our fog light. And we'll turn it clockwise to raise the fog light aim up and counterclockwise to aim it down. I like to drive out somewhere dark and find a nice level spot to park facing toward a building or a wall of some type to adjust everything and make sure it works well. Now if you need to, you should be able to reach in and peel back the fender liner here in order to be able to see inside while you're trying to find that screw and adjust it. And for myself, it usually takes several attempts of making small tweaks and then driving around at night just to get a feel for how everything's aimed to make sure it's putting the light where I really want it to be. Now, for the F-150 style, unfortunately, like I said, the alignment screw for that one is in a different spot, so we can't use the factory cutout here. But what we can do instead is before driving out to aim the vehicle, we can remove this Phillips screw here, this one up here on the bumper, and the plastic push clip that's normally in this corner to loosen up this front portion of the splash guard and actually pull it down out of the bumper. With those fasteners removed, we can pull the splash guard down and out of the way. And now we can easily look up underneath the bumper to see where our adjustment screw is, make the changes, and then just tuck this back away and reinstall the hardware. Now, one more time, as I've mentioned throughout the video, these parts that I designed myself, either for the SSC2 pods or the full bezel replacement options, these will be available on my website, HondaGarageID.store. That'll be linked in the description. And you can visit there to check out any of these designs, whichever one you decide to use for your vehicle. You can either download the 3D files for the parts that I designed and make them yourself, although keep in mind some of them have extra hardware that's not going to be in the print. Or you can purchase the parts for a kit to install yourself. And as I mentioned, those will come with all the hardware necessary. So any adjustment screws, plastic grommets, wiring adapters, everything will be included. that you need for the installation. So if you're interested in using any of these designs, go check that out. And that's finally about all I have for this video. I know there's a ton of information. I hope that it helps you to pick out the exact style and replacement you need for your fit build. I know there's not as much on the table right now for the facelift fits. Hopefully the stuff I showed today was still helpful for you guys. I do have plans to make a full bezel style replacement at some point in the future. I just need to get access to a vehicle to do some 3D scanning first. But otherwise, there's plenty of options now for the fit, lots of high performance and lots of budget choices. So again, I hope you're able to find exactly what you need for your fit and that this information was helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching.